Hello friends, in this session, Trichuris trichura. Trichuris trichura is also known as whipworm because it resembles a whip. Introduction: Trichuris trichura is named a whipworm because it resembles a whip, and often co-infection of Trichuris trichura is seen with Ascaris lumbricoids. So Trichuris trichura and Ascaris lumbricoids co-infection is quite commonly seen in the community. Trichuris trichura lives in the large intestine. Out of the intestinal nematodes, there are two which live in the large intestine. One is Trichuris trichura and another one is Enterobius vermicularis. Trichuris trichura lives in the cecum and appendix, and the infection caused by it is known as trichuriasis. Morphology of Trichuris trichura: the adult worms they resemble a whip. You can see the structure of the adult worms that resembles a whip. The female is larger than the males. Anterior 3/5 is thin and hair-like, and the posterior 2/5 is thick and short. The anterior end is embedded in the mucosa of the host. In males, the posterior end is coiled ventrally, and in the females, the posterior end is straight. Long-lived parasites, they can live up to 10 years or more. The adult worms of Trichuris trichura can live up to 10 years or more. Now the eggs of Trichuris trichura. The eggs are about 50 micrometer long and 25 micrometer wide, and they are bile stained. They are barrel shaped eggs with the mucus plug at both the ends. They have mucus plugs at both the ends, and they have an unsegmented ovum inside. The eggs of Trichuris trichura, they float in saturated solution of common salt. So the eggs of Trichuris trichura, they are found in the stool, and identification of these eggs, of these barrel shaped eggs, is used as a diagnostic property for diagnosis of Trichuris trichura infection. Epidemiology: Trichuris trichura is worldwide in distribution. Co-infection occurs with Ascaris quite commonly. Transmission: how does it occur? Transmission occurs through ingestion of food and water which are contaminated with infective ova. Now the life cycle of Trichuris trichura. In the human being, the adult worms are living in the large intestine, in the cecum and appendix. Fertilization will take place and they will give rise to eggs. Eggs will be released in the stool sample, the barrel shaped eggs. They develop in the soil into the unsegmented ovum inside. It develops into an infective form, infective larva in the soil, and from soil it enters the new host through ingestion of contaminated food and water. And this infective larva in the eggs, they enter the new host gastrointestinal tract, and there they go into the small intestine and then into the large intestine and develop into adults which lay down eggs, and thus the cycle is repeated. Adults in the colon with anterior end embedded in the mucosa. Fertilization takes place. About 2000 to 6,000 eggs per day are released. The eggs are passed in phases, and in warm moist conditions the infective larvae develop. They are ingested in the contaminated food and water. Eggs hatch in the small intestine. There is no migratory phase. In case of Trichuris trichura. The larvae penetrate the villi of small intestine and develop there. After that, the larva will go to the large intestine, and there they will develop into adults. Then fertilization will take place and the cycle is repeated. This was the life cycle of Trichuris trichura. In clinical syndrome, most infections of Trichuris trichura, they are light and asymptomatic. But since the worm, they penetrate deep in the colon mucosa, the head of the worm penetrates deep in the colon mucosa, because of which the mucosa can be injured and secondary bacterial infection can occur. The diarrhea produced in this infection is bloody diarrhea containing mucus, so it gives a dysentery like picture containing mucus and blood in the stool. It may lead to appendicitis. It may lead to prolapse of rectum in some cases. It may lead to anemia and eosinophilia. In this slide, you can see two figures. The first figure shows the adult worm of Trichuris trichura embedded in the mucosa of the large intestine, and in the second figure you can see prolapse of rectum, which is a complication of Trichuris trichura infection. In colonoscopy, the adult worms can be seen embedded in the mucosa of large intestine. In lab diagnosis, wet film can be prepared. 1 drop of stool is taken and 1 drop of normal saline is taken, mixed and seen in the microscope, and the barrel shaped X can be seen in the microscope. That is the diagnostic property. And sometimes if the concentration of the X is less in the stool sample, then concentration techniques can be used. Concentration techniques like formal ether concentration technique can be used for concentrating the X in smaller quantity and then observing in the microscope. So primarily lab diagnosis includes observing the X of Trichuris trichura in the wet film in the microscope from the stool sample. Treatment includes albendazole and mebendazole for control, education of the population, hygiene and sanitation. The eggs of Trichuris trichura, as we have seen earlier, they are barrel shaped, they are bile stained, they have mucus plug at both the poles and an unsegmented ovum inside. They float in saturated solution of common salt and they are about 50 micrometer long and 25 micrometers wide. With this we end this session. Thank you.